welcome the Mount Pleasant Elementary School District candidates. We will again allow each candidate to introduce themselves. They have up to 2 minutes. We will go in order. In this case, all 4 Mount Pleasant Elementary School District candidates confirmed, all were available. And Melissa, please introduce yourself. You have up to 2 minutes.
Okay. Hello. Hi, Juan. Thank you so much for District 5 for hosting. Very happy to be here. And also thank you to Alum Rock for going first. Very interesting listening to them. So I'll start off. My name is Melissa Got-Lopez, and I am a parent and an active community member in our neighborhood. I am currently the president of the Mount Pleasant Neighborhood Association, and I'm also on the Eastside Union CBOC as their vice chair. I've lived in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood for over 24 years, and my son is a Mount Pleasant Elementary School alumni, so he went to Valley Vista, Ida Ju, and is a recent graduate from Mount Pleasant High School. I'm really proud to call East San Jose my home. I've lived here, as I said, for over 24 years, and in that time, I've tried to do everything that I can to work with my community to ensure that it's a great place to live. My goal has always been, whether it be as wearing the neighborhood association hat, or basically working on the CBOC, or working with the site councils at the school, or even as team mom for the sporting teams when my son was in high school or in basketball, my goal has always been to build community. I really believe our neighborhoods and our communities are stronger when we know each other, when people are invested, and when people are engaged and participating. So building community is probably my top priority and really the goal that I kind of go by in my public service. So my next adventure is I'm a first-time candidate for the school board. And school board is very important to me because I've been attending school board meetings for the last few years. I've been working with the superintendents and with the trustees and with the teachers and families there. And I really want to continue to see how I can benefit and provide support to our families and our students, and continue to make sure that Mount Pleasant Elementary is basically a world-class learning institution for our students. And I'd like to make sure that every student now gets the same quality and good experience that I experienced with my son. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next alphabetically, Derek Grasty, could you introduce yourself? And you're on mute, so I'll go ahead and restart it.
Oh, is that better?
Yes.
All right. Dear neighbors, residents, and community members, my name is Derek Grassley, and I'm running for school board trustee in the Mount Pleasant School District. I have a passion for education. It stems from my family's long history of being involved in education. My great-great-grandfather was an educator and community leader. He was principal of the first school for African-American students in Danville, Virginia, more than 100 years ago. My wife's in education. My sister, Melanie Grasty Vasquez, taught bilingual ed in Southern California for many years. And so this history has inspired me for a career in education and also as public service and to serve. Let me be clear, I believe that parents have a role in the education of their children. And it does not stop being supportive at home or assisting with them with homework, but also being actively engaged, volunteering in the classroom as I have done as a parent, and being connected with the school. I believe that's very important, that there's that home school communication. And also being an advocate for what makes our district great, and hearing the concerns of the parents and having that dual dialogue of communication between parents and community members. I have been active in the community. I'm also a member of the Mount Pleasant Neighborhoods Association. I've been active at Mount Pleasant High School in terms of pre-registering students at Mount Pleasant High School to vote, and that was in 2018, and so I'm proud to say those students are now registered to vote. They can vote in this year's election. Serving pancakes, breakfasts at Sanders School, and I've also been a guest teacher in the Mount Pleasant School District. My background is a teacher, principal, and administrator, and I believe that very strongly that there needs to be an educator on the Board of Education. Our schools need someone who knows how schools work and who has worked with your students and understands school budgets and student achievement. And I am that person. Together, we can ensure all of our students develop the life skills they need for college, career, and beyond. Our students represent just 20% of our current population, but 100% of our future. And this is why I'm seeking your vote in this election. With your support, I will work with and deliver results and put our students before anything else. My 30 years experience as an educator has prepared me to help hit the ground running. And so I encourage you to support me. I have endorsements from the Santa Clara County Democratic Party, the Silicon Valley Organization, Oshkara, former Eastside Superintendent Bob Nunez. And I believe in our community and placing students as our #1 priority. We must support the diversity and rich culture that our community offers, and always have high kids. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Next, alphabetically, is Wendy Nichols.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, my name's, will I begin?
Yes.
Yes, okay, sorry. My name's Wendy Nichols, and I'm a parent of 2 students at 2 different schools in the district. And about 4 years ago, my students started here. And at that time, I started volunteering in the classrooms, and it started with PTAs and book fairs and just general help around the campus. And then that grew to sort of spearheading a campaign to rejuvenate the playing fields. I worked through the district on a foundation kind of platform to raise money through philanthropy to get the fields up to par. And that gave me the experience of working alongside the administrators and the teachers and the staff, and just extensively throughout the district. And I feel now that I'm ready to sort of spread my wings and take on a bigger role of support and advocacy and accountability in the district. And so I look forward to serving the Mount Pleasant Elementary School District in one way or another, serving it on into the future, because I believe in it, and I think it's a great place, a great community.
Thank you. All right, so next up we have Antonio Perez Jr.
Good evening. My name is Antonio Perez Jr. I've been a resident of this district since 1969. I have not gone through the schools in this district, but my youngest brother and sister have gone through them. I am a retired engineer, inventor, and technologist. I have been working in education at Evergreen Valley College. Seeing the problem that the students on the east side were having at the college led me to come to the elementary schools and work with the students to encourage them to pursue their education in a more meaningful manner. I started the robotics program in a couple of the schools. That led to me being the chair of the school site councils at Valley Vista and at the Jew Academy. Working at IBM, I got a lot of experience in fairly large budgets and projects and timelines. And I believe I had developed leadership skills while I was in the military. And I have gone through the California School Boards Association Masters in Governance program and some of their other classwork, which I believe gives me a good perspective. And now I have 1 term of experience on the board, and I believe that I am ready to do even more for the district. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The first question will be for Melissa. And that question is, what are your top 3 priorities and how will you implement, track, and hold the district accountable?
Okay, thank you so much, Juan. My top 3 priorities, first off, is access to technology and support. Obviously, we're in a difficult situation right now, so we just need to make certain that our kids have the right tools that they need in order to engage, participate, and actually work with our teachers. Technology and support also means, though, really everybody. Our teachers also need the support, and they need the resources, and they need the training in order to best serve our students as well. So first thing we need to do is make certain that everyone has access and everyone has really consistent support. We also have to recognize that we live in a district that has diversity and technologically competency, let's just say that. So basically we need to have consistent outreach to ensure that everybody has what they need. That it's not just sitting back and making assumptions that everyone has internet, everyone has a desk, everyone has a computer. We need to consistently reach out to everyone to ensure that they have what they need to succeed and participate. We need to do that consistently, and we need to do that constantly, and we need to intervene immediately. Second, inclusion. I want everyone in our district to feel welcome. I want everyone to feel like they are part of our community. I want everyone to be able to feel like they can come to the superintendent, a board member, a teacher, a principal. I want everyone to feel like they can talk to anyone and that they are heard. So inclusion is my second priority. Third priority is equity between our schools. Again, Mount Pleasant Elementary School District is a great district. We are a small district though. We have 5 schools. I want to ensure that all 5 schools are first class, first rate, given everything they need. I want to make sure that decisions are made through an equity lens and that all decisions are transparent and fair so that every single one of our schools is basically, as I said, they are first rate quality schools. So access to technology and support, inclusion, and equity between our schools would be my priorities. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I have the same question for Derek. What are your top 3 priorities, and how will you implement, track, and hold the district accountable?
Thank you. Students, I support students academically, socially, and emotionally. And I believe in continued good fiscal management. That's my first priority. Second, high-speed internet to support distance learning during this pandemic. It's very important that our kids have access, they have hotspots, and that they have the laptops and the technology that they need to be successful. And the third priority, well, the district supports diversity, equity, and inclusion, and so do I. All people should be treated with respect, dignity, and understanding. We need to end systemic racism. We need to work with all groups, all members of our community, and everybody should feel that they can come to the schools, that they can come to the school board, that they have access to all the community activities that we provide, and that we continue to encourage all of our kids to be good citizens and good role models. I will rely on the superintendent and her team to implement these priorities that are consistent with what we want for all students and staff. We will use data, surveys, community forums for feedback to track what we do and for accountability and transparency. And as a board member, I will work with our board to monitor the budget and develop common sense policies that benefit all students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question for Wendy. What are your top 3 priorities, and how will you implement, track, and hold the district accountable?
Well, my number 1 priority is to ensure that the district maintains a viable prioritization process, which has a basis in open and systematic means of communication and input from all the concerned parties. As the district moves forward with its already robustly established goals that include the distance learning plans and you know, making sure that the digital divide is being closed and all of the very good plans that are already in place. As for my own personal passions, I will continue to champion the restoration of our athletic fields. I'll also strive to find new revenue streams for the district and focus on community building, emphasizing, as we are all very keen, the diversity and inclusion, and also growing the student population. So implementation is done through diplomacy, listening to concerns and ideas, of interested parties and full participation in board meetings, events, and trainings. And tracking and accountability is done through the reports from the superintendent based on surveys, research, and stakeholder feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. The same question for Antonio Perez Jr. What are your top 3 priorities and how will you implement, track, and hold the district accountable?
My number 1 priority is the children's education and their social emotional well-being. This has to be the district's number 1 priority. The children have to be our priority in every instance. My second priority is the staff professional development and the morale of the staff. These are very troubled times. The staff is working very hard, and we need to make sure that we provide them the support to keep their morale at the highest it can be. My third goal is effective governance and leadership. We need to show the effective leadership so that the students understand that we are there to support their education, that we are there to give the teachers the tools they need to work with in these troubling times. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. Let me point out that I think I did not hold everyone to a minute for the first question. Please do only take 1 minute for the next question. For the next question, we'll start with Derek. And that question is, what is your plan to ensure every student is growing, and how do you plan to measure, track, and hold the district accountable?
Thank you. When you say hold accountable, I say hold the board accountable and hold me accountable. I will listen and entrust the education of students to the superintendent and her team of dedicated administrators, teachers, and staff. I will promote and support professional development and trainings that the superintendent recommends to benefit the district. We will collaborate and work together to continue to look at survey results, hard data to determine what is working, what is not working, what adjustments need to be made, and or what resources are needed that will benefit all of our students. We need to hear the community voice. Our community needs to be heard. We need to have clear communication and a mechanism for that communication so that everybody's consistent and on the same page, from the boardroom to the classroom to the community. And I will champion that effort that all community members have a say and feel welcome to provide input and give their opinions without any negativity. Thank you.
All right, same question for Wendy. What is your plan to ensure every student is growing, and how do you plan to measure, track, and hold the district accountable?
Yeah.
Wendy, you're on mute. Okay, thank you.
Well, I believe growth is inevitable. It's intrinsic to human nature. And even when someone appears to be floundering or failing, they're still utilizing the data from that experience to make future decisions. So schools, even though they encompass so much more, they're primarily responsible for academic growth. And even though, like I said, they cover much, much more than that in our community. So the classic tracking indicator of academics are test scores. Also dropout rates or suspension rates, how many children are being held back every year. Those are all indicators that can give us the information to know how we're doing. Accountability is garnered through the analysis of the students provided by teachers, administrators, and staff who work directly with them and are monitoring their progress on many levels. I think a new and innovative way of holding the district accountable would be to survey the students on their satisfaction levels. Currently, they're the only population that doesn't get asked their opinions on matters that directly affect them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So next, the same question for Antonio Perez Jr. And the question is, what is your plan to ensure every student is growing, and how do you plan to measure, track, and hold this district accountable?
First, we need to do frequent data analysis. We cannot accept blindly the analysis that's provided to the board in a quarterly or annual report. We need to see monthly reports on progress. We need to make sure that the progress reports and student progress is part of the superintendent's evaluation so that she puts the proper focus on the administrative team. And third, we need to look at the success of our students at the high school level. We are in the job of preparing these students to go to high school. If they are failing in high school, if they're dropping out in high school, then we as a district have failed, and we need to assure that we are not. And if we are, we need to put in corrective action to assure it doesn't happen in the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The same question for Melissa, which is, what is your plan to ensure every student is growing, and how do you plan to measure, track, and hold the district accountable?
Okay, thank you so much. So as was said, I really think we need to really rely on data. So metrics, surveys, any sort of test scores, progress reports from our teachers. I think we need to be able to take all of our actual data and be able to analyze it. And as was said before, again, in these particular times, I think we need to be much, much more diligent about and our frequency and our consistency in managing that data. We need to have a clear understanding of how our children are, quote, growing, and really how they're moving forward based on feedback through our teachers, which I really think our teachers are our first line to be working with our students. Our teachers, our teachers should be working closely with our principals and our superintendents, and they're also their peers, so that we can make certain that we listen to their voices to hear really what is best for our students. Early intervention is really also, again, a really key thing for me. I don't think we have the luxury of waiting for monthly reports, trimesters, progress reports. We need to be really touching and checking in with kids on a very consistent basis so that we can intervene and pivot and move to however we need to better serve them. Accountability. Accountability is really all about feedback. Again, listening to our stakeholders, listening to our families, listening to our students, listening to our teachers. Basically, the board is there to listen from our constituency to see what is working, what is not working. And that's how we hold each other accountable. That type of information should be then discussed with the superintendent, and that's how we're going to be able to make sure that all of our kids are continuing to grow and succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. New question. Give me a second. New question, and we will start with Wendy. And the question is, the digital divide is usually worse for families with multiple children. How can we ensure all our kids have access?
So this is a great question to, I think, sort of toot our district's horn, because anyone who's requested a device or internet access in the district, it's been provided for those people. So they implemented this program by sending out parent surveys, text message, social media, and posts, and there are even person-to-person phone calls. So even though it didn't come off without its challenges, in general, I feel like it's an exciting time in history and one of the silver linings of the COVID situation, because it's forced us to tackle the digital divide in a way that we never would have before, and even for families with multiple children. So one of the interesting things about this particular demographic is the need for headphones, which was mentioned earlier, and that would be something for us to look at. And I'll just stop there because I heard the timer go, but thank you.
All right, thank you. The same question for Antonio, and the question is, the digital divide is usually worse for families with multiple children. How can we ensure all our kids have access?
First, we need to assure that each student has the correct device and the correct training, and that their families have the training necessary to support that hardware and software the kids are using. Secondly, we need to provide more Wi-Fi publicly at the campuses for families who have issues of obtaining Wi-Fi or wired access. We need to work with the city to ensure that AT&T, T-Mobile, Comcast provide quality service in this district. You can tell by my image, I'm suffering from the very low bandwidth with Comcast here in the rural part of the district. And lastly, we need to ensure that all schools have processes that ensure equity, not just equity in the grades at the school, but equity across the entire district at each grade level. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The same question for Melissa. The digital divide is usually worse for families with multiple children. How can we ensure all our kids have access?
Again, yes, great question. I believe, again, outreach is key. I know that the district has done a really wonderful job of providing equipment to all of our families and reaching out to all of our families, but I think we need to continue that. It's often not that we just ask the question, but that we really continue to kind of hammer home to make certain that we can actually see that kids are succeeding, meaning that we know that they're using their laptop, we know that they're using high-speed internet, they're participating, they're engaged. If we at any time see that those things are not happening, we need to reach out immediately to the families to find out why. Is it a concern of just equipment? Is it, again, familiarity with equipment? Is it comfort level? Is it time? What is it? I think, as I said, we really have a higher level of responsibility now with COVID, because we no longer are just responsible for our single classrooms that we used to have at our sites. We are now, in a sense, responsible for 30 classrooms per class. Our teacher is, because basically every student has their own classroom. So we really need to be very, very proactive about reaching out to our families to ensure they have what they need. And this was also mentioned, we need to collaborate with other entities and other organizations. The City of San Jose and Eastside Union are actually working together to ensure that certain neighborhoods actually have free Wi-Fi, and they're actually outfitting them. Eastside Union is actually working with AT&T to actually outfit different neighborhoods with Wi-Fi.
All right, thank you, Melissa.
Oh, okay, thank you, Juan.
Oh, you're welcome. So the same question for Derek. The digital divide is usually worse for families with multiple children. How can we ensure all our kids have access?
Yes. Again, that's an ongoing process that in terms of monitoring and seeing who's on, who's not on. Certainly teachers can give us that feedback in terms of, because they have direct access to who's logging in and so forth. And then at that point, outreach to families and to students and seeing what they need in terms of access and have a system to support students. I've in the past, as a principal, had workshops for parents for technology, and that went very well. And so I would support anything that has to do with student or parent access to technology and giving them the tools they need so that they can provide for their children and we can support our kids. We need more resources. Now we use my connections with the city, the county, and tech companies to bring Wi-Fi and technology to our community. We can't be just satisfied with the basics. We must continue to move forward. We can't be stagnant. We must be proactive in gathering resources and community support to benefit our children. And I will champion that effort. There's a saying, Maslow's before Bloom's, meaning the kids need basic needs in terms of food, clothing, and so forth, before you can get to their higher order thinking skills and Bloom's taxonomy in terms of evaluation, synthesis, and analysis. So we need to provide the basics first, and then once we provide the basics, then they have the foundation to really problem solve, use their critical thinking skills, and prepare them for high school, college, and beyond.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, new question. We have 3 questions left for each of the candidates. And this time we will start with Antonio, and the question is, what are your thoughts about what the relationship between the trustee and the community, the superintendent, the staff, and your fellow board members should be?
The job of a trustee is all about communication. It's about honesty, openness, and accessibility. You have to have a very strong, open relationship between the trustees and the superintendent. That is the governance team for the district. You also have to be available to the parents to the students, to the community at large. We are the voice of the community. And if we are isolated, we are not fulfilling our responsibility. We have to attend the events. We have to be there at the schools. We have to be in the community, listening to the community, not telling people what to do, but asking them how we are doing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Same question for Melissa. What are your thoughts about what the relationship between the trustee and the community, the superintendent, the staff, and your co-board members should be?
The relationship with, as a board member. So as a board member, the board needs to be accessible to the community. Again, as was said, the board really works for the community, the staff, the students, the teachers. We basically work for the community, and we have to be available to be able to be open, to listen to their concerns, and be able to bring that back to the administration to ensure that we can basically make things right for them, or basically, again, make changes as needed based on what our community needs. Again, relationship has to be one of mutual respect. It has to be of honesty, has to be a full transparency, and has to be a willingness to be able to work with people and to care. Really, again, we are there for the students, and we are there to ensure that the students are succeeding. And that means sometimes having to hear maybe some things that we don't want to hear, or things that maybe we didn't necessarily consider. But I think we need to be really open to hearing those things and to make sure that people feel listened to, included, and feel heard.
All right, thank you. Same question now for Derek. And the question is, what are your thoughts about what the relationship between the trustee and the community, the superintendent, the staff, and your fellow board members should be? Derek, you're on mute. You're still on mute, Derek. Wendy, would you like to go next while Derek addresses the technical issues?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yep.
Oh, let me repeat the question.
Okay.
The question was, what are your thoughts about what the relationship between the trustee and the community, the superintendent, the staff, and your co-board members should be?
Come here.
Will we let Derek go since he was next in queue?
I can go now. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. If it's okay. 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 Thanks. The question about the trustee. The trustee should be accessible to the community, and I believe very that the trustee needs to make that extra effort to be accessible. I always do coffee meetings with say distance, and making sure that we hear the community voice. We are elected officials, and we do represent the people in our community. I think it's very important that the trustees, that the individual trustees do not presume to assume the role of superintendent. The superintendent has their role, the board has their role. And so those must be separate entities. The trustee must be able to work with everybody in the community, and must be able to listen to the staff and work collaboratively with the other members of the board. I believe my experience as a teacher, as a principal, as an administrator adds value to the board and gives a lens that isn't present. And I believe that my role can really enhance what's already in the district. I encourage all staff to collaborate, work together, and work for our kids. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Same question for Wendy. I'll go ahead and repeat it. what are your thoughts about what the relationship between the trustee and the community, the superintendent, the staff, and your fellow board members should be?
The relationship of the trustee to the community is essentially diplomatic. As a representative of the people, it's the trustee's duty to listen to their ideas and concerns and incorporate those suggestions into the decision-making process. With the superintendent, a trustee is one in a committee of 5 who works to oversee the goals as established at the board meetings are implemented. It's also a working personal relationship with the superintendent based on direct communication when there's need to clarify information about the topics at hand. With the staff, it's important for the trustee not to engage in any managerial interactions, but be an active listener and an advocate of their needs and concerns. The relationship with other trustees is a professional one based on respect, where disagreements are settled by majority vote, and once that consensus is made, to support the decisions and work as a unit, and hopefully have fun and enjoy the process along the way. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Brand new question. We're down to 2 questions. This question will start with Melissa, and the question is, what are your thoughts about charter schools?
Charter schools. So again, I am a public school advocate, but I do recognize where charter schools come from. I also recognize that Mount Pleasant Elementary is unique in that we do have a charter school, but it is what is referred to as a dependent charter. So we have union teachers and union staff, which I think is wonderful. Charter schools, again, they come out of a place where people feel that their needs aren't being met. So I believe that if we continue to work as a district and work together to be able to provide, listen to our community, listen to our stakeholders, listen to our students, there really shouldn't necessarily be a need for us to actually have more charter schools in our district. Again, choice is, all parents have choice, and I believe that as long as we are able to provide a quality education for our students, public schools should really be, there's no need for a charter school.
Derek, what are your thoughts about charter schools?
Well, I'm a public school educator, and I want to be on the board to really support our public school educational system. I believe we have great teachers. I've been a guest teacher in the district. I know firsthand the good things that are going on, and we just need to communicate that out to the larger community so that people who are choosing charter schools will come back and choose us. There's a reason why there are no charter schools in Palo Alto, because they have great public schools. I want to make our public schools a great place for our kids and for our families. And that is my #1 goal. That is my vision. I think there can be charters when they're not duplicating the public school system. For example, I think a all-girl STEM or STEAM school would be fantastic. Science, technology, engineering, math, or say a performing arts school. I think that would be a good option for charters. But I think for the basic education, we need to look at our school, for particularly at K-8, making ours the best possible choice for our families and getting our kids back to our schools, increasing our enrollment so we don't have to do any layoffs or cuts or anything, that we have additional resources and that we're looking outside of our system to support our kids and our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question for Wendy. What are your thoughts about charter schools?
The top 3 concerns about unincorporated charter schools seem to center on the necessity for traditional school districts to compete for state funds, and also the difference in scales for measuring student academic success, and then also sort of a lack of union protection for the personnel that work there. So I believe charters need legislation to make it a fairer playing field between the 2 entities. Like Senate Bill 126 was just signed, requiring charters to adhere to the same conflict of interest and open meeting rules and traditional schools must do. So that's the type of progress for charter schools. And I like charter schools. I came from a home-based charter school that didn't really work for us, but it works for a lot of people. But I know that if a charter school came to our little district, it would probably have a catastrophic economic effect on our district. And
Thank
so
you.
I would not want that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go back here. Antonio, what are your thoughts about charter schools?
Inherently, there's nothing wrong with the charter school. They cannot be allowed to pick the cream of the crop from a district. They have to be held to the same standards of education that we are held to. They have to prove that they are meeting these standards, and they need to be held accountable for what they are doing. We have seen charters within the district at the high school level, which are only taking the very best of students. They are not taking a broad group, and they're not providing the same educational opportunity for those students that they would get at the high school. We do have other charters within the district that are located at the Hispanic University site, and they are milking off some of our students. And I don't believe they are providing the same kind of quality education that our younger students are getting. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let me turn that off. We are down to the final question. We will start with Derek, and that question is, should the district need to cut costs in the next few years, what would you prioritize to save or cut?
Well, first off, any cuts need to be made away from the classroom. But before we even get to that, I say, well, why are we thinking about cuts? Why aren't we looking at how to bring in additional revenue? A few years back, the Eastside Union High School District asked, well, what should they cut? And I said, well, let's look at solar. Let's look at solar panels. Let's look at a way to reduce the energy costs, and that will create more money in the budget. And a year or so later, that's exactly what they did. There's solar panels at all the high schools in the parking lot. So we first need to look at how we can increase our revenue. One way is letting our community know we have great schools and getting those kids who are in charters back into our school system. I think we offer a better educational program. We need to look at grants. We need to look at our tech companies. They are a wealth of resources for us, and they have the wherewithal to provide. And so I have connections there. I'm looking to bring that back. We also have, looking at city and county support. And so looking at outside resources as a way to bring resources in will avoid cuts. And that's what I want to do.
All right, thank you. All right. It's interesting maneuvering three devices. Next, we have the same question for Wendy. Should the district need to cut costs in the next few years? What would you prioritize to save or cut?
Well, as an eternal optimist, I think like everybody, I hope this question reverses and we're asking, how should we spend the new funds from Measure Q or Prop 15 or other alternative ways of raising funds through grants or partnerships and things like that. And really, honestly, to do justice to this question, it would require some grounding experience in the job itself, I think. I'm sure even a few months in the position would give me sort of knowledge and insight to know how to best tackle that extremely complex and emotional issue of cutting costs. So, if I'm elected, I intend on taking a master's in governance course through the California School Board Association so that decisions in this area are done with knowledge and insight. And so one thing I would propose is that the trustees themselves take a percentage pay cut before anyone else is asked to do so. So those are my thoughts on that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. The same question for Antonio. Should the district need to cut costs in the next few years? What would you prioritize to save or cut?
Our number one priority has to be the student education, keeping the money in the classroom. We need to look at our process for education and optimize it to reduce any inefficiency or waste. We have to look at our cost centers and understand where the money is going in extreme detail, so that if the circumstances arise, we know where we can cut money effectively without affecting the education of the students or the well-being of the staff. If we start cutting staff, we are damaging families, people that rely on their funding. So reducing waste, being more efficient, and looking at revenue opportunities from renting our facilities out to other organizations. Thank you.
All right. And Melissa, the same question for you. And the question is, should the district need to cut costs in the next few years? What would you prioritize to save or cut?
Okay, so Juan, I'm going to answer the question specifically as it is, with the assumption that cuts have to be made. And again, I recognize that, yeah, we need to stay away from the classrooms and actually doing anything to actually adversely affect our students. But really, one of my priorities is keeping schools open. I recognize that closing schools have a huge impact on neighborhoods and families, and I really believe we have to do everything we can to be able to keep all of our schools open. Secondly, program-wise, we have to really keep programs that protect our vulnerable students. Basically, our special ed students, our English language learners, and basically our special ed, any vulnerable students, those need to be protected. And then again, as was said before, reduction in staff is really, really catastrophic and dangerous as well. But I really, if again, things like that have to happen, equitable reductions in staff is a big deal for me. I've seen before where equity is not adhered to, and I want to make sure that everything is done, again, fair and transparently. So, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, everyone. That's all of the questions for the Mount Pleasant Elementary School District candidates. I thank you all for participating. It was great to see that all of you could make it. And I want to wish everyone, including the audience, a good night.